We're at the end of the last week of early voting, and so far we've seen record turnouts across the coastal bend. Mariah Gallegos shows us why emotions are one of the top reasons people are flocking to the polls compared to years past.
This election has far surpassed any interest in any group that we've seen.
In San Patricio County, Pamela Hill says she's worked presidential elections since '08 and has never seen the turnout she's seeing now. They're expecting to continue seeing the long lines of voters on election day.
Whether that is because they want a little bit more certainty, whether that is because they really like one candidate over the other, or whether they feel angry with the current situation and they want to get more control. People are showing up to the polls.
Topics like the coronavirus, healthcare, and climate change are driving more voters to cast their ballots. But Sanne Rijkhoff says emotions are also a factor.
Two emotions on the positive side, so hope and enthusiasm, and two on the negative side, anxiety and anger, or fear and anger.
Rijkhoff says emotions are always involved in deciding which way people will vote, but this year the pandemic is causing those emotions to be more intense.
This uncertainty makes us grasp at things that we can control. And we can control who we identify with. It's actually at the level of seeing the others as a threat to the country.
Although emotions can be difficult to control during an election season, Rijkhoff says it's important for voters to try and continue focusing on the issues candidates are addressing.
Make sure that they are seeking out information, that they are well informed, and this might mean that they have to talk with people that they might disagree with.
Mariah Gallegos, 3 News.